Hello everybody, this is Gabby's Games, and welcome back to War Thunder 101. And today I'll be covering a few battlefield roles, more or less. And of course, like every tank is unique in this game, or well, unique. Uh, Black Cat M18, for example, carbon copies, pretty much Cobra King, Jumbo carbon copies. But what I mean is just tanks have their own playstyle fit for them, and we'll be covering a few of those playstyles. So the first most common all pretty much playstyle would be an all around runner, such as probably one of the most iconic ones, the T-34. T-34 has medium mobility, has decent armor, nothing special in armor or mobility, and gun is nothing special, but everything just gets the job done. And most of the time, these kind of classes have pretty fixed side armor as well, so they're capable of angling. Their gun uh, normally rotates pretty fast, has a pretty decently fast reload as well. And because of all of those things, it is a really good city fighter. So they're really good in urban areas where there's not very much range or visual range, and they will just quickly able to turn around, take some street alleys if they need to, and at the same time they have enough protection to actually deal with incoming shots occasionally if angled, and their gun shoots fast enough to reply and whatnot. So the next thing would be the harasser or flanker class. Some of these names are actually taken from other people, but I like to call this just the flanker class. And flanker classes, they have very little armor, high mobility, and they're just to flank. As you can see here, very little armor. This thing can be hull broken, which is a mechanic that if there is a big enough shell hitting a tank, in reality, any rivets or welds would actually let it go and just like fall apart, and that's actually like what's happening and the game as well, and you actually just like instantly get destroyed if that happens. But these generally have mediocre guns, similar to the medium tanks. However, they do not have the armor to sustain short combat scenarios, and the guns, because of their mediocreness, they do not have the power to actually stay at long range. So what do you do then? You flank. You go around and you hit people in the side. And this is basically how you use flanking tanks. You do not rely on your armor. Again, like this thickest part is actually the firing piece itself. That's actually the thickest part of the armor, and that might actually protect you sometimes. But other than that, like nothing much will have will really do anything. Even though this might occasionally bounce some lower uh size shells, but don't expect anything for real. I'm talking 50 kills, guys, or light machine guns. But anything beyond that, no way. Especially on this one. But the for example, the M41 is also a flanker, but has a little bit more armor. Let's say like at 50 millimeters. It can occasionally stop some autocannon fire, but again, that's pretty much it as well. Don't really expect to take any hits, or well, basically, if you're seen, you're dead. Pretty much, that's the policy you should be taking with things like this. So just make sure you do not get seen in these. And again, shooting from the side, try to either disable the gunner or mobility first, depending if they're moving or not. If they're not moving, gunner first. If they are moving, mobility first. Build. They have to break down, and they have to be probably gonna have the last notice of where you shot from, and then you probably have enough time to follow up the second shot to disable gunner, or hopefully kill it. Next up are um, moving fortresses, or just like doomsday, doomsday turtles. So or as I like to call them. They're extremely heavy armored, very slow, and they've pretty much they do have good guns, but really slow reload on them most of the time. And the T28 and T95 are prime examples of them with the 305mm frontal armor, and then the big 105 gun with a almost 20-second reload. But another really iconic example is KV2. And yes, I gave mine a really nice smile here. It's a bit of the common thing to do with KV2s to begin with, so it's not really that special, but it's fun. But that reload, 42.8 seconds, is really long. And it does one-shot most things it looks at, but in between you're pretty vulnerable, and you're really vulnerable to flanking. Just like the next next role we're gonna discuss, which is the um, heavy, or the overall is the tank role. Well, of course they're all tanks, but like in the normal PvP, it will be the tank. They're just the heavy tanks. They do not have a well. This one does have the same gun, but this one is a bit of a mixture between the two of them. But they do not have as ridiculous armor as a turtle class, but they have quite a bit more mobility and gun handling, specifically, so they can be used at mid to close quarters combat, way more efficient than the turtles can. The turtles they actually need like team support in order to survive. Without team support, they will just get flanked and get annihilated. But the heavies can actually stand their own and are probably one of the most dangerous 1v1 opponents. Actually, other than the turtles, but turtles and 1v1 are actually really dangerous. But like in normal combat, these are one of the most dangerous units. They're still pretty flankable, but they're overall just more responsive. So as long as they're not dealing with too many people at the same time, they can normally react pretty efficiently. Other good examples of these are things like the Tiger and the Tiger 2, IS series tanks, the KV series tanks as well, Churchills, your occasional heavy. And next up would be snipers. Snipers, they have light armor and little to no ability, but have a really big gun. And overall, the Sturra Mill is one of the best examples for that overall. This thing has, at 5.7 BR, has the same gun, almost the same gun, as the mouse. The only difference is that the Sturra Mill has a slightly lower velocity on it. The shells are still the same. Again, just the only difference is the actual velocity of the gun. So it actually has a slight issue with hitting at long range, but these are just like sit behind the main line in an open field on some kind of hill, and they shoot from there. And they often either have a really high velocity gun or like a really big gun with slow reload, like the Emil has. Like the Emil, do not mistake it for a turtle. It does not have the armor to deal with it, as in to take place as a turtle. It is definitely an ambushing machine, and it cannot like do frontally. It has to actually like get behind your allies and shoot from there as support. Other actually some good examples for snipers is actually something like the Comet, because I'm actually just gonna show this thing in test drive. You probably know my like how the rectangle of aim looks like, with the velocity and whatnot, and how to range with it. So let's say the Tiger is around 1 kilometer out. Look at those lines, how close together they are. I don't actually have to aim properly because I'm gonna hit it pretty much guaranteed. Gonna go for 1200. Even though that was a really inaccurate shot, I'm still hitting it, and the high velocity makes it really easy to just shoot away and do quite some damage. Yeah, even though I will not be able to penetrate it, I'll be able to quickly see, like, okay, around there, fire. And I will hit it. That's a good thing about these kind of guns. Okay, in this case, it's a British gun, so it doesn't have any filler. So, like, say the actual this round right here, it's normal AP round that will actually have more killing power. But as you can see, how much lower that velocity is. We'll have to shoot around here. Bit on the low end, even there. Around this is around what? Just over 1 kilometers out. Bit too high. Yes, guys, I know I got the Girls of Panzer sound mod in here. That's why I have these Sugoi Japanese voices. They're really fun. But yeah, there you can see the difference between normal brawler-ish shells and sniper shells. This thing can go really well at range, especially if, like, another good actually thing to see if it's a good sniper. If it's a turret, that's a really good turret armor compared to its hull armor, and good gun depression. Those are overall indicators that you should be playing it at a range, hide your hull, and only peek your turret over a hill and shoot from there. So then we got the heavies, already covered those. We do have AAs there, but they are generally have the flanker role, but they're a little bit harder to use than most flanker roles because most flankers actually have a cannon, and these ones only have auto cannons, and the auto cannons have really low, actually size in the round in the actual diameter, and it's kind of a problem because most of the time, especially for something like the AA Mark II, you ain't gonna have penetration, and the only one you're okay. I can get the 4.7, but for example, if I were to set a 6.7, I cannot use the Falcon, and the AA Mark One will be inefficient at 6.7. So you really have to be on tier to be effective. Good example for that would be the Whirlwind. Actually, it has at 3.7 sits with the Panzergranate 40, 64 millimeters, high velocity armor piercing rounds. 64 millimeters at 3.7. So let's just go over here. Check the 3.7. 50 millimeters. Can I actually? There's the second plate behind it, but like right here, I can actually penetrate this thing frontally, and I might be able to hit it right like up top here. The actual straight plate up here. The flanks even easier. I can penetrate this thing even from the front, and that actually says quite a lot about the power of such an SPAA. Even just like the machine gun part already will do the job. Quite funny actually how this plate here is not going around, but true machine gun part right there. But those are pretty much it. Okay, of course you got things like the main battle tank that can perform any role, but those are main battle tanks. And yeah, they just do everything to begin with. And those are pretty much the things where you would have to be in the most lines. So just to recap a little bit, flankers have high speed and often light armor. So the tank line, like the actual lines where you'll be looking at, will be the American Sheridan line and M60A2 line up to the M36 here. Those are the two main lines for here. Then nothing really on the German line other than the normal SPA line. I guess like on the American actually the SPA line is kind of a flanker line as well, but their worse SPAs than the American one, than the German ones, because the German ones have better penetration overall, because they actually developed high velocity armor piercing rounds for those autocannons. Overall, the light tank destroyer and the SPA line on the Russian SPA, and some of the tank destroyer, and medium tanks in these trees. Here SPAs as well as the light tanks line. And here again the light tank line. Next up is the turtle line. Turtles sit at the T95, T28 specifically, and some of the heavy tanks right here do fit those roles. They're not really that amazing, but they do have like some properties for them. Then we got the heavy tank destroyer line on the Germans, heavy tank destroyer line on the Russians. We got something like a tortoise as well on the British, but they don't really have anything else other than probably a Churchill. But a Churchill actually trades the firepower of the gun to be the turtle, to be a turtle. Pretty much lacks that. Sadly, the Japanese don't know to really get any other than maybe the Heavies, but the Heavies are more snipers than actual turtles. Here we do get the heavy tank destroyer line. I do have some decent power other than the ARL, which is more of just a heavy. The next up, of course, are the heavies, which are, of course, the heavy tank line on the Americans, heavy tank lines on the Germans, heavy tank line on the Russians, British. Again, Japanese don't really have heavies other than the premium heavy tank no 6. It's literally only two heavies they have, and the whole Rogo actually doesn't have any good armor. So it isn't really a heavy, it's just heavy in weight, more than being heavy in armor. Sadly, Italians don't really have that kind of stuff. There are some heavy tanks here, and some bigger gun units here as well. But the main units here are most snipers in the line right here. They're pretty much all like here, heavy tank. Just get a quick preview. At 7.7, this is not something I would call a heavy tank. That's gonna get shot right through. I have to say, this thing is pretty huge. Damn. But yeah, this is armor that's not existent, so these are more snipers and flankers here, what you see in this line. And again, here, we do have some brawlers or snipers in here. So close range units. Here we got some good mediums that can do the all-around and brawlers roles. Close range here as well. Panther D is actually an exception because it's a sniper, because of the really slow turret rotation speed. Because like with snipers, you can also see like the turret rotation speed. Look at that, 4.3 degrees. That isn't really fast at all. So there are a lot of criteria. So if one of you guys actually experience a tank and you might have issued with it, and you're like, okay, I might be playing it wrong, feel free to ask around, ask me, like, hey, what role is this tank gonna be fitting? And I hope I can actually answer it correctly, because I don't have that much experience in this game, but I do have enough experience to be confident in giving you guys some help with that kind of stuff. So yeah, comment down if you have any of those kind of stuff. And yeah, that's really it, guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching as always. And I'll catch you guys all later. Bye, guys.